Greetings one and all, and welcome to another Mystic Mind analysis. I am the Nightmare Rider, Mage of Mind, reminding you as always that even a cheeseburger can be deconstructed to its original source. Thanks for the memory is the return of Cindy Morrow to the writing staff after an absence during season 4. Her challenge in this episode is striking a different balance for the very brash and sometimes self-centered character that Rainbow Dash is, depicting her selfless actions in a way that has the audience sympathise with her. In my headcanon video about the Homestuck God tier classes of the main 6, I described Rainbow Dash as holding the God tier title of the Knight of Breath. I explained the concept in more detail in that video, but essentially Dash is a pony who, throughout each season of MLP, frequently shows her cool and ultra self-centered persona is used to unmask and hide her insecurities, not immediately wishing to express the weaknesses or fears she may have. The stronger the emotional pull, the more likely she is to try and put on a brave face, hoping that she will convince herself and others how resilient she is. And this is why I find it easy to empathise with Dash in this situation. The difficulty of her being without Tank during the winter is so strong for her to accept and face. Dash has formed a tight bond with Tank since May the Best Pet win, because this little tortoise makes up for what he lacks in athletic ability with his grit and loyalty, refusing to give up on the competition and helping Dash when she needed it most. Dash is trying to avoid in what's known in transactional analysis psychology as an injunction. This is a condition that, for her to be okay with herself, Dash must avoid a negative idea. In this case, the injunction is, I must not be alone, so everyone else must change in order to prevent herself from facing up to this insecurity. Dash understands why Tank needs to hibernate, so everything she does during this episode is to keep the weather warm, thus eliminating the conditions that cause Tank to sleep. This lends itself well to the world building of this episode, which extends on the seasonal events we have seen in episodes like Fall Weather Friends and Winter Wrap-Up. Most of the pony culture revolves around manipulating the weather on the season and regular schedule, something I suspect is done more for the sake of convenience than out of biological need, with magic being the primary method of achieving this. We know that Pegasi magic allows them to manipulate weather, and so we get to see the step-by-step process of how the Cloudsdale factories create everything we associate with winter, creating a hilarious slapstick chain reaction to Dash's interference. The episode is also very consistent with its humour, largely through visual gags based around Dash's exaggerating reactions, but also the classic comedy callbacks that Cindy Morrow cleverly threw in, which uses name puns in a manner which, being an Englishman myself, reminds me of a sketch by the two Ronnies called Four Candles, featuring a disgruntled shop worker who keeps getting the customer's order wrong due to the customer's thick accent.
4 candles. 4 candles. Here you are. 4 candles.
No, 4 candles.
Well, there you are, 4 candles.
No, 4 candles. Handles for forks.
I find the hero is very important in this episode, as the subject of letting go of a close family pet, even if the framing device of the hibernation is a much less harsh one, it is quite a heavy subject for anyone to deal with, let alone children. As such, the frequent gags of Dash trying and failing to keep Winter at bay shows how desperate Dash is, progressing her as a character without becoming too dark or malicious. This means that her increasingly desperate and over-the-top plans aid the audience in understanding just how critical this issue is for her, so that we can understand how genuine these heavy emotions are. My first critique of this episode may seem inconsequential, but I do think that it highlights a particular flaw with loosely connected slice of life stories. Rainbow Dash mentions how this is her first winter with Tank, blurring the continuity that these episodes have with each other. It is mentioned during the season 4 opener, Princess Twilight Sparkle, that it had been exactly 1 year since she moved to Ponyville, so this calls into question how this has been Dash's first winter with Tank. If we are to believe that this is the first time Dash is facing up to this problem, then there needs to be a much clearer order of continuity, otherwise it relies on the audience ignorance to fill this plot hole. But the biggest problem I have is something I feel quite conflicted on, because it actually ties into the best part of the episode, which I will mention later. The fact that Fluttershy expects Dash to face her anxieties head on, accepting the harsh reality at the point where Dash breaks down in tears, a level of genuine anguish that we have never seen from her before. I understand why Fluttershy did this, but she and the other members of the main six just come off as really insensitive, saying or doing very little in order to comfort her or make the process easier, other than crying alongside her. If they had offered comforts and alternatives, such as allowing Dash to stay with the non-hibernating pets for a while, or at least showing how they understand the issue is important to her, then the ensuing breakdown would feel much less as a result of insensitivity. I get that Fluttershy was coming from a position of tough love, that you need to be cruel to be kind sometimes, as she learned during It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, but the way she phrased it just comes up as less of a position of caring and more of a mean-spirited frustration. I don't like the notion that the only way to deal with deep emotional loss is to be bluntly told to accept it. But on the other hand, there is still an implied message that I think is incredibly important for both kids and adults to learn. It is okay to feel sad. Everyone at some point in their lives is going to experience grief in one form or another, whether it be breaking up with a romantic partner, death of a family member, or even the death of a pet, as Dr. Walsh suggested this episode could represent. Boys of any age are often subjected to toxic masculinity, restrictive gender roles that push phrases like "big boys don't cry," telling men that they should suppress their emotions because men are supposed to be tough, dominant leaders rather than submissive, weak crybabies. The whole point of Fluttershy's bluntness, however misplaced I may think it was, served the purpose of Dash letting out her emotions rather than suppressing them and causing more pain and anguish for herself. As Lacey Green pointed out in her video "Does Sexism Hurt Men?",
let's build a world where boys and girls can feel, can cry when they're sad, where we accept that emotions are part of being a human being and we teach boys and girls to manage them in healthy ways,
so it becomes easier to accept these feelings and move on. Overall, this episode is generally a more positive one, although it leaves me with some mixed feelings. The continuity error is more of a personal gripe I have with world consistency, and the means to an end Fluttershy used felt much harsher than it needed to be. But these setbacks aren't very damaging to the episode when we consider all the world building that came as a result of this, as well as giving Rainbow Dash a chance to overcome one of her biggest personal insecurities. I give Tanks for the Memories a final grade of straight B. Until the next time, this is the Nightmare Rider, Mage of Mind, riding out.